We've talked about one-way data tables and two-way data tables, but in this video, we're going to talk about something called relative frequency tables. And a relative frequency table can be made from both a one-way table and a two-way table, but we're going to be focusing on two-way tables. So we're going to be looking at how to turn a two-way data table into a relative frequency table. Let's say, for example, we start with this table here, which is a table that organizes all the surfboards in Ricky's surf shop. So this is a table of surfboards, and we've got the table broken up by color of surfboard. Some of our surfboards are blue, some are white, and then by whether the surfboard is a longboard or a shortboard. So we can tell from the table, for example, that we have 20 blue longboards, or that we have 3 white shortboards. So we've got some information, and this is a great two-way table, but what we really want to know is the percentage of longboards and shortboards given that we've got a blue surfboard, or the percentage of longboards and shortboards given that we have a white surfboard. We're also interested in the other way. We want to know, given that we have a longboard, what percentage of our longboards are blue and white, and what percentage of our shortboards are blue and white. And that's where relative frequency tables come in. So let's just say here that we are going to focus on these blue surfboards right here. So we're just going to look at this column. We're going to ignore the white column for a second. What we want to notice is that we have 25 total blue surfboards. If we add 20 plus 5, we get a total of 25 blue surfboards. The question we want to answer is, of our 25 total blue surfboards, what percentage of those are longboards and what percentage of those are shortboards? So the way that we figure out a percentage is just by dividing the number of longboards by the total number of blue surfboards, or the number of shortboards by the total number of blue surfboards. So if we take 20 divided by 25, what we get is 0.8, or 80%. If we take 5, the number of shortboards, divided by 25, so 5 divided by 25, we get 0.2, or 20%. What this tells us is that 80% of all the blue surfboards are longboards, and 20% of all the blue surfboards are shortboards. Now we could do the same calculation for the white surfboards, so this time ignoring the blue column and just looking at the white column here. If we add the total together, we have 15 longboards, 3 shortboards that are in the color white. 15 plus 3 is 18. So we have 18 total white surfboards. So of our 18 white surfboards, what percentage of those are longboards? Well, that would be 15 divided by 18. So if we say 15 divided by 18, we get approximately 0.83, or approximately 83%. If we want to know the percentage of our white surfboards that are shortboards, we just take 3 divided by 18, so 3 divided by 18, and that's approximately equal to 0.17, or about 17%. What we want to do then is represent these new calculations in a relative frequency table. So here's what that would look like. We would build a new table. Notice it's the same as the original table with longboard, shortboard, and blue and white, except that we replace the count of each category with now a decimal number. So notice here we have the 0.8 and the 0.2, which come from our 0.8 and 0.2 here, and then we have 0.83 and 0.17, which come from our 0.83 and 0.17. So we entered our new calculations into the table. Notice also, and this is really important, that we have this column total row added to the bottom. The fact that we have the totals at the bottom and that we said column total tells us that we found the percentage of each category by column. So we looked in the column and we found the percentage of longboards for this whole column. We found the percentage of shortboards for this whole column. And by the way, it would be totally appropriate in a relative frequency table to put either 0.8 or 0.80 or 80%. We just as easily could have put here 80%, 20% here, and then 83% and 17%. So you can either enter these as a percentage or as a decimal. Both are totally acceptable. If you have decimals, you want to have at the bottom here 1.0 or 1.00. If you have percentages, you want to match that and say 100% at the bottom and then 100% here. So either way, decimals or percentages, both are okay. You can pick whichever one you'd like. But the column total at the bottom and the fact that we say column here means that we looked at each column individually. And that makes sense because 0.8 and 0.2 add up to 1, and 0.83 and 0.17 add up to 1. So when we sum the column, we get a total of 1, and that's always what we want, 1 or 100%. Notice that if we try to sum across the rows now, we get 0.8 plus 0.83, or 1.63, also known as 163%. And across the shortboard row, we get 0.2 plus 0.17 is 0.37, also known as 37%. And this just doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make sense that longboards are 163% of our surfboard population. And the reason these don't make sense is because we didn't look at the rows, we looked at the columns. So because we looked at the columns, that means each column will sum to 1 or 100%. Because we looked at the columns, this is actually called a column relative frequency. Basically, this table just shows us the percentage of type of surfboard based on color. And we say based on color because we based our calculations on the column, and the column is what's showing color. But we could have just as easily done these calculations by row instead of by column. If we want to look at the calculations by row, instead of looking at the whole blue column, we now look at the entire row here for longboards instead. So we'll go through the same process, it'll just kind of be the opposite way. This time we look at the whole row and we say, what are the total number of longboards that we have? So 20 plus 15 is a total of 35. Now of our 35 longboards, what percentage are blue? Well, we would just take 20 divided by 35. So we'll do that up here and we'll say 20 divided by 35 is approximately equal to 0.57 or about 57%. If I want to find out the percentage of longboards that are white, I would take 15 divided by the total of longboards 35. So 15 divided by 35 is approximately equal to 0.43 or 43%. And then I want to do the same thing for the shortboard row. So now I ignore the longboard row. I look just at shortboards, and I want to say this time, which percentage of my shortboards are blue, which percentage are white? Well, the total here, 5 plus 3 is 8. For the percentage that are blue, I'll take 5 divided by 8. So 5 divided by 8 is equal to approximately 0.63 or about 63%. If I want to find the percentage of shortboards that are white, I take 3 divided by 8, which is approximately 0.37 or about 37%. Then if I want to put those in a table, here's what that looks like. This time, instead of a column relative frequency, I will call it a row relative frequency. Notice that I translated the 0.57 and 0.43 here across the row as 0.57 and 0.43, and the 0.63 and 0.37 across the row as 0.63 and 0.37. And just like with the column relative frequency, it's equally acceptable to put here 57%, 43%, and then 63% and 37%. And then if I do that, I just want to make sure that in my row total here, I have 100% and 100%. So I could express these as percentages or as decimals like I have them. Notice how in the column relative frequency table, we had across the bottom column total and then the total decimal 1.00 or 100%. In a row relative frequency table, I have instead the row total. I say specifically it's a row total, and my decimals add up to 1.00. 0.57 plus 0.43 is 1. 0.63 plus 0.37 is 1. So it makes sense to sum up the totals because I'm saying that the row total is 100% of the longboards. 57% of those are blue, 43% of those longboards are white. So either I calculate across by row, where I find the total for the entire row, and then take the individual value here, 20 or 15, and divide that by 35 to get a percentage across the row. And then I put a row total of 1 or 100% and call it a row relative frequency table. Or I find the total down the column. I sum 20 and 5 to get 25 as the total for the column. Find the percentage of 20 in comparison to the column and 5 in comparison to the whole column. And then I put those numbers into my table here and find the column total as 1 or 100% and call that a column relative frequency table.